Fracking. What is fracking? No doubt you've heard the word, whether in local newscast, national radio, opinion pieces, or commercials. But what is fracking? Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking as we most commonly hear it, is a modern natural gas mining technique. Massive drills, with the aid of lubricants, are set up to dig up to a mile underground, then extend horizontally. These mine shafts are then enclosed in cement. Finally, millions of gallons of fracking fluid is pumped into the ground to fracture the rock, which encases natural gas deposits. Here's how it works. The beginning of fracking begins with the initial gas rig being installed onto a site. From the gas rig, a drill extends downward, vertically down into the ground, almost a mile deep. When it eventually reaches the shale, the drill then turns horizontally so it can drill directly into the shale. From here on, a pipeline is started with cement casing. This is the initial casing, as the drill then extends further horizontally into the shale. More pipe is created and more cement casing is installed. Now begins the process of fracturing. Small fractures are created in the rock, which is where the natural gas is pumped from. Fracking fluid is then injected down the pipeline, into which it flows into these fractures in the rock. The fracking process begins as vertical drilling occurs about a mile underground, drilling far past drinking water aquifers. After a certain point, the drill then turns horizontally in order to get full exposure into the natural gas zone. From then on, hydrofracking fluid is pumped down into the well to stimulate the release of natural gas as it fractures the rock. The natural gas is then pumped back up through the well into private storage areas. The entire well is encased in cement, but unfortunately, fracking fluid tends to leak out of the well, and then it leads to areas for potential groundwater contamination. This is one of the main issues facing fracking, is this potential groundwater contamination.
Fracking involves many environmental concerns. One of the main concerns in hydraulic fracking is the use of the hydraulic fluids. The fluid contains thousands and thousands of chemicals, some of which are known carcinogens. As a result, many people are worried about the leakage into groundwater. This leakage has resulted in flammable tap water and concerns for both habitats and communities. We will show footage of this later on. Following is some footage of the flammable tap water that has previously been discussed.
I can often hold a standard kitchen match to my water, and like I said, it is unpredictable, but the methane randomly travels with the water, and sometimes it will light quite spectacularly. Just like that.
In addition to the chemicals, the sheer amount of water utilized in hydrofracking is in the millions. Millions and millions of gallons are used per each single well, and much of this water, unless treated, is lost. In addition, these sites involve major development, and such development brings trucking. Thousands and thousands of trucks are brought to each site as they bring water and leave with gas, many to quiet, formerly rural communities. These communities are thus disrupted, and many of them are against the use of fracking within their towns. In addition to water pollution, air and noise pollution are large concerns. As the gas rises into the air, it can release many carcinogens, and the noise from these sites is disruptive. In addition, these cracks caused in the earth are suspected to cause earthquakes in many nations. This is still being explored, but many footage is available. Following is a CBS News broadcast on the fracking and earthquake correlation.
In northeastern Ohio, work was suspended this week at 5 wells used to dispose of wastewater from oil and gas drilling. The suspension follows a dozen minor earthquakes in that area since last spring, and an earthquake expert believes the two could be related. We asked Michelle Miller to look into this.
This is the magnitude 4 earthquake which occurred on New Year's Eve, very close to Youngstown, Ohio.
John Armbruster is a seismologist at Columbia University. Before March, there had not been a recorded earthquake in Youngstown, Ohio. Since then, there have been 11.
Never felt an earthquake before, and it was just an experience.
So Ohio state officials asked Armbruster to investigate.
These earthquakes were sitting there waiting to happen. We have triggered these earthquakes.
For all the environmental concerns that fracking raises, there are also economic pros that most people often overlook. It's a commonly known fact that the U.S. is one of the world's largest oil importers, relying heavily on foreign countries for its oil imports. Pennsylvania, which is one of the states in the U.S. that has fully embraced fracking, imports 75% of its energy. With fracking allowed to be in full capacity, Pennsylvania would be able to become 100% reliant. And if the U.S. were able to embrace fracking fully, it would have 100 years of shale energy. On top of just being able to have a domestic source of energy, the U.S. would also become one of the world's top exporters as the global fracking market increases. As the energy supply goes up, as fracking is embraced more and more, prices would also go down, leading to lower gas prices.
For all of the good arguments on both sides of the fracking issue, each side also has many flaws. The estimate of 100 years of domestic energy for the United States is based off of shale estimates with no areas off limits, including national parks and other reserved areas. Realistically, increased energy would also result in increased consumption, which would result in much less than 100 years of energy. On the environmental side, many communities argue about the development and size and noise disruptions of many mining sites. But what many people do not know is each entire shale deposit only takes 6 to 8 months to be fully mined, at which case it is completely abandoned, after cleaning up, of course. For all the groundwater concerns, leakage precautions are taken from encasing the well in cement to creating processing plants which clean the water before redistributing. And finally, overall, fracking is only a temporary solution to the United States energy problem. With only 100 years maximum, and likely much less than that, it is not a permanent solution to the amount of energy we need, and more options must be explored within our lifetimes. Now that you're familiar with fracking, what do you think?
We have two choices. One, we can spend money to bring oil in, or two, we can take our oil and sell it and make money.
I don't know how I feel about fracking because it's not a renewable source of energy.